When you hear domestic violence, what do you think of?
I think of someone being abused, like a mother or a daughter or like a son, anyone in general, but abuse is what comes to mind.
Um, Sad. I mean, usually when I think about it, I think of like a husband beating up his wife and kids type thing. Um, it's never a good thing.
When I see cases of domestic abuse, it angers me because I don't think that any man should, or anybody should stoop that low to the fact that they should be, hitting someone else. And it's never right to hit someone else. I mean, unless it's in self-defense.
When I hear about domestic abuse, it just makes me feel like really sad because those people who experience it tend to feel like really worthless and it really messes up your mind basically, and I feel a lot of sympathy towards those people who go through that.
How did domestic abuse affect you?
It has impacted me because I feel strongly about drinking alcohol. It changed my dad whenever he would drink. It would turn him very abusive, so I kind of tried to stay away from it. Um, it has also made me like to become very careful about who I get into relationships with. And I feel that it is good to bring it to people's attention because so many people are affected by domestic abuse.
When I hear about domestic abuse, I think of parents beating their children or men beating their girlfriends. I mean, girlfriends could beat their boyfriends, but that's just not common in our day and age. And kind of upsets me because it feels like you're taking advantage of someone who you're stronger than or um, feel is as in you're greater in power than, which isn't right at all.
How has domestic abuse affected you?
Domestic abuse has affected me because my mom was abused by my stepdad, so I got to experience it firsthand.
And how did that make you feel?
It made me feel resentful towards my mom because she didn't do anything, and it just put me in a really uncomfortable situation a lot of the times.
How did you experience domestic abuse?
Um, well, my stepfather was the one that was always like abusing my mom and me, and it was mostly just me and her. It was through verbal and physical abuse.
And how did that affect you?
The way it affected me, it affected the relationship between me and my mom. Me and my mom never agreed on like whether to forgive my stepfather or to move out. So it was always conflict between me and my mom, and then eventually I moved out. So yeah.
And then what did you do about domestic abuse?
Um, each time there was a fight, almost every single night, I would call the cops. Cops would come in, and they would arrest my stepdad many times, but sometimes my mom would say that I lied about the event, even though there's bruises all over her body. She would say that I lied about it, so often, like, the cops would just walk off and leave my stepdad, and it would get even worse that same night. So,
What was your first experience with domestic abuse?
Well, I was in my room one day and my girlfriend at the time was getting pretty mad at me for some reason I can't remember the day, and she just like was hitting me on my chest.
And how did that affect you?
Um, well, I kind of like took it lightly at the time because I wasn't trying to be too serious, but it's kind of scary, like having feelings for someone and then they have their feelings for you, but they take it out in different ways.
And then what did you do about it?
I left her. I realized she was kind of psycho and crazy and stuff, so I realized it'd be better to move on.
What do you think we can do about domestic abuse? How we can change the way it's viewed and how it's treated in the media?
I feel like they need to take it a little more seriously, and that is not just like something that not happens a whole lot, but it's actually like kind of like a big thing in our society, and that like we need to treat it more seriously, and how we should really focus on it and like portray it in the media as something we should work forward to take care of.
How do you think we can change the way domestic abuse is viewed in the media?
I think in order to change the way it's viewed in the media, we need to spread awareness about domestic abuse and really let help people understand how much it occurs. We need to like inform people why it occurs, and that stuff it needs to change.
What are your feelings on domestic abuse?
I think a lot of people view domestic abuse kind of singularly as physical, but I feel that a lot forget that there are psychological impacts to what domestic abuse is, and I think those are even a lot more lasting and a lot more impactful than even physical ones. Of course, no type of abuse is okay, but I feel that the effects of being psychologically abused are carried throughout your life. Bruises heal, but the effects of that bruise in your head to someone that you've loved is long lasting. You never forget that. And that's kind of the side of domestic abuse that I feel isn't addressed as much.
I grew up in an abusive household. My entire life revolved around the crying, the screaming, the yelling. No one believed me. Everyone thought I was kidding. I'm overdramatic, they said. Whenever my father was drinking, bad things happened. People say it only affects the spouse, but the children are affected just as much. Can you imagine the constant fear? Never good enough. Always on your toes. I couldn't speak without the backlash. My voice was never heard. The feeling of wanting to die. The scars that aren't physically there, but they are.
It happened to me.
It could happen to me.
It could happen to me.
It could happen to me.
It happened to me.
It could happen to me.
It could happen to anyone.